Hi all, today I'm going to talk about the modern day Holocaust and slavery. Uh, this is the animal Holocaust and animal slavery that I'm talking about. That's going on now, and it's been going on for far too long. First I want to talk about how it's been done in the past, how the Nazis regime stamped its way. The ridicule and hatred towards the Jewish people started off as something quite small, actually, in comparison to the later events, with Hitler using Jewish people as scapegoats, which has been widely accepted as the theory by historians. He was using them as scapegoats for World War One, and this snowballed into the German curriculum being played with anti-Semitism teachings. According to an official guideline for teaching about the Jewish question from 1937, the teaching should ensure that every pupil remain an enemy of the Jews for the rest of his life and raise his children as such. Wow, that's huge. I mean, that made itself into the curriculum for German schools, to hate Jewish people. That is the epitome of racism, like that. That's teaching kids without any knowledge of anything at all exactly how to go about something. But to say this irrationality only happened with Hitler's era, or in fact towards only Jewish people, is a huge understatement. The Jewish people faced anti-Semitism far earlier than World War One or Hitler. It dated back many centuries. I point this out to show people that no matter how irrational or intolerable some decisions or actions may seem, or for even how long they occurred, they still happen. They happen every day. Many people idle on the fact that they have eaten meat products seemingly forever, that, that, that the human race has eaten meat since day one, so therefore it must be right. It must be what we should do now. Going back to Hitler, he did not achieve dominating many Jewish lives with just his army alone. Okay, he needed the mainstream German population to believe in it too. And as no surprise, his best weapon was public speaking. This epitomizes the form of marketing and brainwashing which you see today in the meat and dairy industry. It is so bad that it's impossible, well, not impossible, as there's many people like me out here trying to advocate it, but very hard for people to get the right information because the brainwashing and the marketing, and it's more than that. There's pressure on the people that we rely on to tell us what good nutrition is. There's pressure on them from lobbyists to make sure that what you're told has a good serving of their product on it, whether it's good for you or bad. The parallels from then to now is insane. They're talking about the Nazi regime. Yet to do it to animals is accepted, even though we don't have to. I mean, there's so much proof that being a vegan is healthier, but still okay to slaughter animals pointlessly. Slavery is another aspect of animal cruelty. It's not just the death, it is the life they have to lead. It's not natural. It's not a natural life at all. Even free range is not a natural life at all. Their lifespan is far lower because of the conditions they're in, and also because of what they're required for. Calves, chicken eggs, baby chicklets, they're all killed half the time because they're just not needed And that's what we do to things that we just don't need. Slavery is so overlooked now in the animal world that we call it names such as herding and organizing, and slavery has only recently been removed from civilized countries. I say civilized countries merely because they're called civilized countries by just a name. And it looks back on the slavery as very dark times, as it should. The black slavery existed in the US between 1620 to 1865, and it began with the introduction of African slaves, and it was seen as so successful that they started using blacks from within the US. So the US just basically turned on their own inhabitants because it was successful. These slaves were used mainly for the cotton and tobacco trade. They usually living on farms under control of slave masters, which were what they're called. Their lives were dictated from start to finish, much like today's animal farming, where the black slaves were encouraged to make families, but they were often separated by their master. Punishment was enforced and favours were given for good cooperative work, which kept them in line really, because they were often given a lot of incentive to keep order within their own ranks. Don't know if you could parallel that with what's given today in the animal world, as they are so vulnerable and really can't do this sort of thing, but it just goes to show what sort of techniques are used to keep the system moving, keep it the way it is. Punishment was enforced and favours were given, of course. There were many attempts from blacks to escape, and the country became divided on whether slaves should exist at all. The southern states being pro-slavery. For a long time, no black person was considered free, and their position in the US was seen solely for slavery. The parallels drawn to then to the animal holocaust now are practically identical. I've been over this with a lot of people. Their eyes glaze over and they get highly offended by what you say. They think it's nothing close, even though you just proved it is. I don't know how you get this around, but we do consider animals our slaves by the way we treat them, and as a product, even though they have a will of their own, and we actively go against this. So, yeah, thank you.